You know that friend who drains you every time you talk? That relationship where you're constantly walking on eggshells? What if I told you that the loneliest you'll ever feel is in the wrong company? Here's what science reveals. Your body literally keeps score. Research shows that toxic relationships alter your stress hormones in measurable ways. And staying in them doesn't just hurt your feelings, it damages your health. When you're in a draining relationship, your cortisol levels stay elevated for hours after a single interaction. That's your body screaming what your mind already knows. And here's the part that changes everything. The people who seem the most at peace aren't the ones with the most friends. They're the ones who learned when to walk away. Everyone knows someone who radiates calm despite being alone often. They're not avoiding connection. They discovered something you're about to learn. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is choose yourself. Let's talk about how to know when it's time. Chapter 1. The energy deficit. The hidden cost you're paying daily. Your relationships should add energy to your life, not drain it. But most people never calculate the actual cost of maintaining toxic connections. Here's the energy deficit principle. Every relationship either deposits energy into your life or withdraws it. Think of yourself as having an emotional bank account. Healthy relationships make deposits. You feel energized, supported, seen. Toxic ones make withdrawals. You feel depleted, anxious, smaller. The problem? Most people go into overdraft for years before they notice. Your sister calls and immediately starts complaining. After 30 minutes, you feel exhausted even though you just sat there. That's not coincidence. Research on relationship stressors shows that even passive exposure to someone else's negativity triggers your stress response. Your body is literally working overtime to regulate itself around this person. When you track your energy honestly, patterns emerge. After coffee with that friend, do you feel lighter or heavier? After family dinners, are you energized or counting down minutes until you can leave? Your nervous system knows the answer before your mind admits it. The energy deficit isn't about being selfish. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. And some people have been drinking from yours for years without ever asking if you're thirsty. Reflect on this. Who in your life consistently leaves you feeling drained rather than filled? Chapter 2. The loneliness paradox. Why the wrong company is worse than being alone. Here's something that will reshape how you see relationships. You can be surrounded by people and feel completely alone. That's not ironic, it's biology. Studies involving over 2,000 people found that chosen solitude is associated with peace, autonomy, and self-connection, while being with the wrong people triggers the same brain patterns as physical pain. The loneliness paradox reveals a hidden truth. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unseen, unheard, misunderstood, and you can experience all of that in a room full of people who are supposed to love you. You're at a party surrounded by acquaintances, nodding along to conversations that bore you, laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You come home feeling more isolated than if you'd stayed in. That's the paradox in action. The presence of people who don't see you amplifies your aloneness. Meanwhile, someone else spends Saturday night reading a book in their apartment, feeling completely content. Same situation, being alone, but radically different experience. The difference? Choice and alignment. One person is starving at a feast. The other is nourished in solitude. Research distinguishes between solitude and loneliness with stunning clarity. Solitude is a choice that restores. Loneliness is a wound that depletes. And the cruelest trick? The wrong relationships give you both. You're alone in the sense that you're not truly connected. But you're not in solitude because you're still performing for people who don't value you. The moment you understand this paradox, everything changes. Being alone stops being something to fear and starts being something to protect. Consider this. Are you lonely because you're alone or because you're with the wrong people? Chapter 3. The Gottman Predictors. 4 signs a relationship is beyond repair. Not every difficult relationship is toxic. Some just need work. But how do you know the difference? Dr. John Gottman studied thousands of couples and identified 4 communication patterns that predict relationship failure with over 90% accuracy. He called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. First, criticism. Not complaints, criticism. It's the difference between saying this situation is frustrating versus saying you're a frustrating person. When someone consistently attacks your character rather than addressing behavior, that's horseman number 1. Second, contempt. This is the deadliest one. Eye rolls. sarcasm, mockery, disgust. When someone treats you with contempt, they're communicating that you're beneath them. Research shows contempt is the single strongest predictor of relationship dissolution, and it's toxic in any relationship, romantic, family, or friend. Third, defensiveness. When every conversation becomes a battle to prove who's right, when you can't admit fault because it feels like losing, the relationship becomes a war zone. Defensiveness blocks resolution because both people are protecting rather than connecting. Fourth, stonewalling. The silent treatment. Shutting down. Walking away mid-conversation. When someone consistently refuses to engage, they're signaling that you don't matter enough to fight with anymore. Your friend criticizes you in front of others, rolls their eyes when you talk about your achievements, gets defensive when you express hurt, then gives you silent treatment for days. That's not friendship having a rough patch. That's all four horsemen riding through your life. Here's the key. One horseman occasionally? That's human. All four consistently? That's terminal. When you see these patterns, you're not watching a relationship struggle, you're watching it end. The question is whether you'll acknowledge it or keep pretending. Ask yourself, how many horsemen are riding through your most draining relationship? Chapter 4. The permission you don't need. Waiting for them to be bad enough is costing you your peace. Here's the trap that keeps people stuck for years. You're waiting for the other person to be bad enough to justify leaving. Bad enough means dramatic betrayal, undeniable cruelty, an obvious villain moment. But here's what no one tells you. You don't need permission to choose peace. Most toxic relationships aren't movie villain obvious. They're death by 1,000 cuts. A friend who subtly undermines you. A partner who never outright abuses, but consistently makes you feel small. A family member who isn't evil, just eternally draining. You stay because they haven't crossed the big line that would make leaving justified. This is permission paralysis. You need them to be worse so you can leave without guilt. You need others to validate that yes, this is bad enough. But while you wait for that permission, your cortisol stays elevated, your energy depletes. Your authentic self shrinks a little more each day. Research on relationship stressors reveals something crucial. Consistent low-grade stress from relationships causes more long-term damage than occasional major conflicts. That person who's just kind of exhausting, they're harming your health more than you realize. Your body doesn't wait for permission to respond to danger. You don't owe anyone a dramatic reason for choosing yourself. You don't need to present evidence to a jury of your peers. The fact that being around someone consistently costs you peace is reason enough. The most mature thing you can do is stop waiting for them to be worse and start honoring that they're not right for you. That's not judgment, it's discernment. Reflect on this. What if you already have all the permission you need? Chapter 5. The grief of choosing yourself. Why the right choice can still hurt like hell. Here's what no one warns you about. Choosing peace over people doesn't feel triumphant at first. It feels like loss. And that's because it is loss, even when it's necessary, even when it's right. You can grieve what you're leaving while still knowing you needed to leave. People expect you to feel relieved when you walk away from toxicity. And eventually you will. But first comes the grief. Mourning not just who they were, but who you hoped they'd become. The friendship you thought you'd have forever. The family relationship you tried for years to fix. The potential you saw that never materialized. This grief is legitimate. You're not dramatic for feeling it. You're not weak for missing someone who hurt you. You're human, processing the death of something that mattered. Even if it was killing you, you end a draining friendship and find yourself crying. Not because you made the wrong choice, but because you're mourning the version of that person you kept hoping would show up. That's the complexity no one talks about. Both relief and grief can coexist. You can know you made the right decision and still feel devastated about having to make it. The grief also includes mourning the version of yourself who could tolerate it. Walking away means admitting you can't fix them, can't make them see you, can't love them into changing. That's not failure, it's wisdom. But it hurts like failure at first. Give yourself permission to grieve fully. Don't rush to the empowered narrative. Sit with the sadness. Honor what you lost, even as you protect what you're gaining. The peace comes, but first comes the honest reckoning with the cost. Ask yourself, what am I grieving when I imagine choosing my peace? Chapter 6. The solitude reframe. From fear of being alone to protecting your peace, society sold you a lie. Being alone is the worst thing that can happen to you. So you tolerate draining people because the alternative, solitude, Seems terrifying. But here's what research reveals. Chosen solitude is one of the most powerful tools for well-being you possess. Studies involving thousands of participants across age groups found that people who chose solitude reported higher autonomy, deeper self-connection, and more peaceful mood than those who stayed in draining social situations to avoid being alone. Especially among older adults, solitude was associated with the highest levels of peace and lowest levels of stress. The reframe is simple but revolutionary. Solitude isn't isolation. Isolation is forced, lonely, desperate. Solitude is chosen, restorative, intentional. When you're alone but okay with it, your nervous system relaxes in ways it can't when you're managing difficult people. Think about it differently. That Saturday night alone isn't sad. It's your nervous system finally getting a break from performing. That morning coffee by yourself isn't lonely. It's the first time all week you've heard your own thoughts without someone else's needs drowning them out. Your coworker has plans every single night because she can't stand being alone. She calls it having a great social life. But you notice she's always exhausted, always anxious, never content. Meanwhile, someone else spends 3 evenings a week at home, reading, creating, resting. Society calls the first person popular and the second person antisocial. But who seems more at peace? When you reframe solitude from something to avoid to something to protect, everything shifts. You stop tolerating people who drain you because you're no longer afraid of the alternative. Being alone becomes a gift, not a punishment. Consider this. What would change if you saw solitude as a sanctuary instead of a sentence? Chapter 7. The Sunk Cost Trap. Why time invested doesn't mean more time owed. Here's the trap that keeps people in dead relationships for decades. I've already invested so much time. I can't walk away now. That's the sunk cost fallacy in action, believing that past investment justifies future suffering. But here's the truth. The time you've spent is already gone. Staying longer doesn't honor it. It just wastes more. You've been friends with someone for 15 years, but the last 5 have been exhausting. The friendship you valued ended years ago, but you keep showing up because of the decade before. That's sunk cost thinking. The history becomes a cage instead of a memory. Think about it this way. If you wouldn't choose to start this relationship today, why are you choosing to continue it? If a stranger treated you the way this person does, would you pursue their friendship? If the answer is no, the history isn't a reason to stay. It's just the story you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of leaving. You've invested years. You've invested energy, love, patience, hope. But investment doesn't create obligation. The time you spent isn't wasted just because you stopped spending more. Actually, continuing to invest in something that depletes you, that's the waste. Your family member has caused you stress for 30 years. Every interaction leaves you drained. But they're family. You've known them your whole life. You've been through so much together. So you keep showing up, keep absorbing the damage, keep hoping it'll change. Meanwhile, those 30 years of history don't make the next interaction any less toxic. They just make you feel more trapped by the weight of time. Here's the freedom. You can honor what was without sacrificing what could be. You can appreciate the good seasons without forcing yourself to endure the bad ones. The relationship served a purpose once. That doesn't mean it has to serve you forever. Ask yourself, am I staying because it's good for me, or because I've already stayed so long? Chapter 8. The Peace Audit. A framework for evaluating every relationship. Stop guessing whether someone is good for you. Start measuring. The Peace Audit is a simple framework that reveals which relationships support your well-being and which ones cost it. Here's how it works. Track 3 metrics over 2 weeks. First metric, energy after interaction. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel immediately after spending time with this person? Not how you think you should feel, how you actually feel. A 7 or above. They're energy positive. Below 5, they're costing you. Second metric, authenticity during interaction. Can you be fully yourself, or are you performing? Do you edit your words, suppress your opinions, manage their emotions? If you're constantly regulating yourself around someone, that relationship requires a mask. Masks are exhausting. Third metric, recovery time needed. How long does it take you to feel like yourself again after being with them? If it's minutes, they're probably fine. If it's hours or days, that's a problem. Some people require so much recovery time that you spend more energy bouncing back than you got from the actual interaction. Now here's the key. Do this audit across all relationships in your life. Your results will show patterns you've been avoiding. You'll see clearly who fills your cup and who drains it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your colleague scores 8 out of 10 on energy, 9 out of 10 on authenticity, needs 0 recovery time. That's a relationship worth nurturing. Your friend scores 3 out of 10 on energy, 4 out of 10 on authenticity, needs 2 days to recover from. That's data, not drama. The audit isn't judging them. It's informing you. Use this information to make conscious choices. Reduce contact with low-scoring relationships. Protect time with high-scoring ones. Stop pretending you don't know who costs you peace. Your body has been telling you for years. Take action. Run the peace audit on your 3 most frequent relationships. What does the data reveal? Chapter 9. The boundary before the break. When to fight for the relationship versus when to walk. Not every draining relationship needs to end. Some just need better boundaries. But how do you know which is which? Here's the deciding factor. Are they willing to respect boundaries when you set them? A boundary is a clear statement of what you will and won't accept, paired with a consequence if it's violated. It's not a threat, it's information. When you tell someone what you need and they consistently dismiss, argue, or violate it, they're showing you who they are. Believe them. The test is simple. Set one clear boundary. Not 10, just one. Make it specific and enforceable. I won't engage in conversations about my weight. I need 24 hours notice before you visit. I don't discuss my dating life with you. Now watch what happens. A person who respects you might be surprised, might need clarification, but ultimately they'll honor it. A person who doesn't respect you will treat your boundary like a suggestion, a starting point for negotiation, or a personal attack on them. Your friend constantly shows up unannounced. You say, I need you to text before coming over. If they respect you, they adjust. They might forget once, apologize, and do better. But if they keep showing up, make excuses, tell you you're being difficult, that's not forgetfulness. That's disrespect. The boundary before the break shows you whether there's a relationship worth saving. Here's the difficult truth. Some relationships can't survive boundaries because they only worked when you had none. When someone built their relationship with you on your unlimited availability, unlimited patience, unlimited tolerance of their behavior, any limit you set will feel like betrayal to them. That's not your problem. It's information. Set the boundary. Give them a genuine chance to respect it. If they don't, you have your answer. The relationship isn't worth fighting for because they're not fighting to keep you. They're fighting to keep you compliant. Reflect on this. Have you set boundaries, or have you just been hoping people would read your mind? Chapter 10. The freedom on the other side. What your life looks like when you stop betraying yourself. Here's what happens when you finally choose peace over people. The guilt fades. The doubt quiets. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you start to remember who you are without all that noise. Life after choosing yourself doesn't look lonely. It looks spacious. The first few weeks feel strange. You're not managing anyone's emotions, but your own. You're not bracing for the next draining conversation. You're not performing, explaining, defending. It's quiet. And that quiet is where you rediscover yourself. You realize your Saturday mornings are actually peaceful when you're not dreading Sunday's obligatory family dinner. Your phone doesn't trigger anxiety because you're not waiting for someone to need something from you. You have energy for the people who actually appreciate you because you're not depleted by those who don't. The relationships that remain become richer because they're no longer competing with toxic ones for your limited energy. The friend who always supported you? You finally have space to invest in that friendship properly. The family member who actually sees you? You're present with them instead of resentful about the ones who don't. And here's the surprising part. The right people don't think you're selfish for choosing yourself. They respect you more. They see someone who knows their worth and honors it. The people who call you selfish for having boundaries are usually the ones who benefited from you having none. Your life becomes smaller in the best way. Fewer people, but better people. Less noise, but more peace. Less performance, but more presence. The version of you that emerges isn't harder or colder. You're actually softer because you're no longer defending yourself against constant attack. This is what's waiting for you on the other side of choosing peace. Not a lonely life, but a life that's finally yours. Not isolation, but liberation. Not less love, but love that doesn't cost you your self-respect. The moment you choose peace over people isn't the moment you give up on relationships. It's the moment you give up on betraying yourself to maintain them. That's not loss, it's coming home. Ask yourself, Who will I be when I stop abandoning myself to keep people who don't value me?